guys, today I'm going to be continuing to read from the art book, the Encyclopedia, and I've already had where we would be reading opened right here. And today's topic is realism. Realism, beginning in France in the 19th century. Realism was a movement that sought to paint truthfully and depict what real life was like for working people, or the working classes. Scientific progress in areas such as photography, combined with the invention of ready-mix paint and portable easels, had made it easier for artists to move out into the world. Very true. Just like one of those ready-mix paint, acrylic paints, and tubes that we use today, that is really, really fantastic for those people at that time. Because if they use a pig's bladder to store the paint and then they poke the thing out, it would dry the paint out quickly because it can't seal again. But these tubes can, painting the modern world. While artists since the Renaissance had painted realistically, their subject matter was often far removed from daily life. That's true, because they draw a lot about religion, saints, or kings and queens. Nothing about daily life, because those people live in luxury. Realist artists chose to paint the results of the Industrial Revolution, circa 1760 to 1840, depicting the building of bridges and trains and the lives of those affected by these changes. Ordinary people, now we call them ordinary people. The realist movement began in the late 1840s when a group of artists and writers began meeting at a cafe in Paris. There they discussed politics and social issues, as well as writing and art. And they're artists. That doesn't mean they can't do something about politics and social issues, can't they? And developed new ideas about authenticity. They decided to paint life directly as they found it, showing how ordinary people lived. The Gleaners, 1857. Jean Francois's Millet. Known for a scene of peasant life or people who were really poor, they usually grow lots of things for rich people, but only in years and years, decades and decades, centuries ago. They used to live, like in the Renaissance period, they used to live on warlords' land where they will be paid where they will be give a space to live and food to eat by growing foods for the warlords. I think they were called warlords. Known for scenes of peasant life, Millet painted this on a large canvas of a kind normally used for important people. Natural portraits. Sumptuous surroundings, fancy ornaments, and stiff poses had no place in realist portraits. Rather, realist artists showed people wearing contemporary dress and in natural poses. This contrasted with the formal manner and traditional portraiture, for which subjects would dress up in their finery. Oh, that looks nice, because if we have some kind of portrait and the person who was going to be drawn, they weren't going to be drawn in a portrait, they would pose in their finest clothes, and they would pose a pose that wasn't quite so ordinary, like ordinary people do, putting their hands in pockets and things like that. The Woman in Blue, 1874. She looks like a woman who lives in luxury. Jean-Baptiste Camel Corot. Casually posed and fashionable, this woman was not portrayed in a traditional portrait style. Today, many art historians consider the realist movement to mark the beginning of modern art. Seems really modern. Bold and sketchy. The technology that had the greatest impact on realism was photography. The first photographs were black and white. They still provided a challenge to painting. That's true, because those photo booths and those cameras were not so developed as cameras now, and when we take a picture of them, we usually can't see the face very clearly. They look very bright, and there were kind of like lots of dark spots around the pictures. That's a minus point for those cameras, because we can't see the face clearly. But now the cameras are really developed, and we can see our painting or pictures clearly, that doesn't mean pictures doesn't get destroyed, but this is not related to the topic, right? Okay. But they still provided a challenge to painting as photos accurately reproduced moments in the real world. Realists tried new ways of painting, such as bold, sketchy brushstrokes to capture a lively scene of immediacy that photographers could not achieve. Because the person who's going to be taken a picture of sounds like they know they're going to be taken a picture of, and doesn't seem very natural. Third class carriage, 1864, on the Rue d'Armire. The poorest passengers on a train were the third class travelers, but they were they were not attention seeking. They were in the center of attention for these artists to paint. That's true, right? They paint normal people's lives, so that's why they call it realism. With a sketchy realist painting style, Dahmer showed how they accepted their hard lives with dignity. Not like some, I'm only saying some, rich woman who dress in fine clothes and saying, I don't like this and I don't like that. But she has much more than those people. But I don't say all of them are. Note that word. Painting modern life. By the late 19th century, the Industrial Revolution had been underway in Europe for about 100 years. In this time, towns and cities had grown enormously. That's why they call it the Industrial Revolution. Why would they call it the Industrial Revolution without some changes? Right? Had grown enormously, radically changing how people lived. Realist artists set out to show these changes in their paintings, depicting the struggles of the poor as well as the leisure time of the newly formed middle classes. A fisherman peers into the river. Those were kind of like really common subject when they're really just peering into the river, but I like this one. It looks fun. A painting by a pioneer of Russian realism. Russian realism. Artist Vasily Perov. Just the word Rav at the end of his surname will makes you think of Russians. Date 1871, medium oil on canvas. Most of the time, I can guess, Vasily Perov was one of the founders of the Peredvishniki movement. Kinda hard to read name. Often called the Wanderers in English. They were a group of Russian realist painters in the second half of the 19th century. Perov was deeply influenced by his own wandering through Europe. Although he painted in a tighter style than the French realists, Perov still aimed to capture the lives of ordinary people, not romanticizing or idealizing the truths he observed. Barge haulers on the Volga. An honest portrayal of the hardships of life. Artists, this looks a bit sad. Ilya Repin. Date 1873. Really hard to read name. Medium, oil on canvas, because most of the time I can't make out the letters in their name. Is it an L or is it an I? In this picture, 11 men drag a barge against the tide of the river Volga in Russia. The men look exhausted, but like other realists, Repin portrays their dignity as they work, showing how difficult working people's lives can be. This is one of the most famous paintings of the Peredvishniki movement. Although their work took ordinary things as its subject matter to many Russians of the time, it was revolutionary because it went against the established artistic conventions. But that shows us that many people was put to hard work, and we should have sympathy for them. In the orchard, an everyday subject on large canvas. This seems a bit more fun because there are two children picking some kind of apples or maybe cherry. Artist James Guthrie. Date 1885 to 1886. Medium oil on canvas, as I guess. They're always oil on canvas or oil on canvas paperback, right? Scottish artist James Guthrie produced this big painting measuring 152 times 178 centimeters, 70 times 60 times 70 inches while he was staying in a small village near the Berwickshire coast. This looks pretty fun, and I can't believe it's such a big painting. It shows a boy and girl collecting apples that have fallen from the trees in a sunlit orchard, with a gaggle of geese looking on. Until then, Guthrie had been known mainly as a portraitist, but this work made him famous as a realist painter. Miss Amelia Van Buren. Looks like a man to me, but it's a miss. A naturally posed portrait by an American realist. Artist Thomas Eakins. Date, circa 1891. Medium, oil and canvas, again. This American painter was inspired by French realism after studying in Paris. Back in the United States, Eakins painted portraits, figures in landscapes, wrestling matches, and surgeons at work. The subject of this painting, who was a student of Eakins, twists her head and arms away from viewers as if she is thinking about something else. Well, that's not bad. Hard labor. Reuben shows the intense effort made by each of the men as they put their whole body weight into their labor. Pulling just a ship, that's very heavy, and they look like old men to me, very old. The Pre-Raphaelites. Wow, look at her. In 1848, the same year that the Realists formed in Paris, a group of English painters and poets began a new secret society. They felt nostalgic about the past and thought that industrialization was damaging society. The group looked back to time before the Italian painter Raphael, calling themselves the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Before Raphael, the Pre-Raphaelites believed that art had moved in the wrong direction since the time of Raphael at the start of the 16th century. I don't think so. I like modern art, and actually, to be honest, I don't like art with royalties or saints depicted in them. No reasons why. They thought Raphael's emphasis on old classical forms had made art artificial and objected to the way that he was celebrated as a great master. And I'm the opposite. I think depicting royalties posing unnaturally and saints that always looks towards you, they're not bad people, but they look like it's more artificial than modern life. Modern life looks better, not artificial, and objected to the way that he was celebrated as a great master. Instead, they aimed to follow the styles of early Renaissance artists such as Botticelli, whose work emphasized color and detail. A converted British family sheltering a Christian missionary from the persecution of the Druids. 1850, William Holman Hunt. Typical of the style, Hunt's painting is full of detail. Ophelia, 1852, John Everett Millais. This drowning woman is from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. The Pre-Raphaelites often choose tragic subjects. She doesn't look like she's drowning anyway. She looks like she is very absent-minded. Look at her. She doesn't look like she's drowning. She looks like an absent-minded woman. Bright and beautiful, the Pre-Raphaelites objected to the influence of Sir Joshua Reynolds, the founder of the English Royal Academy of Arts. They called him Sir Sloshaw because they thought his paintings were sloshy and messy. No, it wasn't. Joshua into Sloshaw. By contrast, the Pre-Raphaelites were meticulous, and their paintings appear bright. They achieved this by coating canvases with white before painting. The Beloved, 1866, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. The subject of this painting is the power of a woman's beauty, which is brought out by the vivid colors. The Beguiling of Merlin, Bewailing of Merlin, 1877. Edward Burne-Jones. This painting shows a story from a legend about the magician Merlin's love for the mysterious Lady of the Lake. She looks a bit strange. Continued influence. By 1853, the original pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood had broken up. However, Dante Gabriel Rossetti continued to be described as a pre-Raphaelite, and the term was also used for later artists who worked in similar ways, such as Edward Burne-Jones. Initially widely hated, they ended up becoming highly influential on art movements such as symbolism. Oh, they were highly hated. Painting truthfully. The artist thought that the Raphael's emphasis on classical art had damaged the way art was taught, making it unimaginative and artificial. The pre-Raphaelites signed their paintings PRB for Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, and although criticized by many, they were admired by the art critic John Ruskin, especially for their belief that the purpose of art was to imitate nature as closely and honestly as possible. The pre-Raphaelites believed that art should imitate nature as closely and honestly as possible, and they're repeating the same. Well, I finished reading for today. Maybe I'll continue reading to you guys maybe tomorrow. Bye!